Welcome to this episode of Who Gives a Vote, where we discuss all things politics and some other things along the way. All the views expressed in this podcast are personal views and do not reflect the views of any organisation or entity that the participants may be involved with. So let's get started. Well, welcome to this episode of Who Gives a Vote. We have George, Carly and myself here talking about federal politics. I don't think the disclaimer worked at the beginning of this time. I'm not sure why. We'll have to investigate. So it's fair to say that no one here speaks for any entity that they represent. George, you are...
Absolutely not. I'm here as a person, not as a mayor, not as any representative. Yep.
And I don't represent any entity, so we're good.
Awesome. Well, I'm pretty excited to talk about today. It is, I guess, a continuation of last week and a continuation of the week before. It's certainly been a significantly interesting week in federal politics. What's your thoughts, George?
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a real, disastrous week for the coalition. What we used to refer to as the coalition. They're, on a day when they're meeting for Katie Allen's funeral, they're squabbling and meeting behind closed doors. And we know today they couldn't get an agreement between Angus Taylor and Andrew Hastie. So they, which sort of puts off the leadership for a while. But it's, and nobody can really explain from their perspective why they have to get rid of Susan Lee. They say it's the Nationals' fault. And then, of course, on the National side, you have a very peculiar circumstance of Colin Boyce, who, if anybody thought was going to jump to One Nation, it would be him, putting himself out as the candidate for the Nationals that would bring everyone back together.
So let's put some context in this. This is the second separation of the coalition. It was based on the fact that the Nationals broke solidarity rules with the Liberals. Three ministers from the Senate resigned. They offered their resignation. Susan Lee accepted it. And then the entire Nationals front bench resigned because Lee had accepted the resignations. And the Nationals and Liberals split again. Everyone thought that Susan Lee would be dealing with a leadership challenge this week. And it turns out that, in fact, it's David Littleproud who is dealing with his own leadership spill on Monday. As
the week is only young.
The week is only young. And it's interesting because I think if you watch the Sky News live broadcast where Colin Boyce announced it.
No, I choose not to.
Yeah,
well, I've gone and watched it on YouTube, and the actual shock of the interviewer was quite obvious, and he didn't know where to take it from there. And he did say that he would be contesting, he would be spilling the leadership and contesting for it as well. So it's an interesting space. So the Nationals say, so Boyce said he would challenge David Littleproud for the leadership of the National Party. Then it's also this week, Lee wrote a letter to Littleproud on Tuesday suggesting the pair and senior party officials meet without any preconditions and as a priority ahead of Parliament resuming next week. And the Nationals declined because they're too busy fighting amongst themselves. They've already had a fight with Liberals, and now it's the time to have a fight within themselves. Is that a fair assessment, Carly?
Yes, it is a fair assessment. What I'm wondering, though, is because from what I have heard and read, Boyce hasn't been canvassing votes.
Yeah, nobody's come out saying they support him.
So is it possible that he's doing the spill to open the path for someone else?
I think there's two options. And if you were to look at and we will go into who we think is going to be the next leader of the Nationals, but it does intrigue me that the spill is coming out of Queensland, out of regional Queensland, and the front run, if you were to choose a front runner from anywhere, it would be a Queensland senator, I would think, in Matthew Canavan. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
I suppose we'll get to that. But
if they could get the leader from the Senate or the, I imagine they can. The leader can come from the Senate.
Yeah, they can. Well, Pauline Hanson's the leader of the.
Oh yeah, but in terms of the Nationals, they might have a rule like the Labour Party, where the leader's in the House.
Yeah, I'm not sure because was Barnaby Joyce the leader when he was in the Senate, or was that?
I don't. No, he was never the leader in the Senate. That's why he did That's why he moved interstate. He left Queensland in the Senate to go into New South
So he could
Wales,
get a lot of
so he
housing.
could end up
Yeah.
being the leader.
Yeah. Okay. So it would really depend on whether or not that the Senate could take.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, I'm not sure all about that. I mean, really, he left so he can end up becoming deputy prime minister. But I think that was the case, that it was to become the leader that he moved to New England.
Yep.
Canavan claims that he is completely surprised by the whole situation. So
Yeah. So then the other alternative, which I think is the most likely alternative, is that Boyce has already made a decision that he will leave the Nationals and go to One Nation. So my view is that potentially you'll see a leadership spill. He'll run for it. If he doesn't get it by Friday, he'll announce that he's joining Barnaby Joyce and the new, because he doesn't.
I thought he said he didn't want to. He didn't want to
No, he
be in
said
the Senate.
No, he would run for Flynn again.
Yeah.
But he said that he had said that
No, he said
there's no
he-
chance of getting that seat when I'm in One Nation.
Yeah,
That's
said
why
it'd
Barnaby
be very
and-
difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I still think that he will. I
His
think
pants
he'll-
are on fire.
Yeah, I think that's most likely. He does this; it raises his profile nationally.
Yeah.
You know, very few people would have heard of him, you know, who aren't very aware of, you know. And if you look at the issues he's always raised in the past, it's never been about trying to keep the coalition together.
No.
It's unusual language he's using now about talking about leadership, which doesn't really help him later when he becomes a One Nation MP, if that is what happens.
Yep. And one of the people who caused the original split, Darren Chester, who was one of the senators who resigned, wasn't he? Darren Chester was. Yep. Was
No, he's a Victorian. He's in the lower house in Victoria.
okay. So it wasn't. No, it was Cadell who
Yeah.
was. Yeah. So Darren Chester from the National Party, he said, at a time where Australian families are struggling with the increased cost of housing, energy bills, and everyday expenses, I'm embarrassed that my party has spent the last week talking about itself. I won't be supporting this bill motion, and I won't be a candidate.
Yeah, and he's one of the ones who a lot of political watchers would say could be a candidate. He's very capable, very good media operator. You know, I've had lots of meetings with him at Parliament House, actually.
You've had a
Yeah. He's right now his shadow portfolio probably, or at least it did until fairly recently, doesn't anymore, but regional development. He's sort of there liaison with Regional Capitals Australia.
Yep. Yes, so certainly it is embarrassing.
It is. And how does it look to the voters when they're all arguing about themselves, when there are a lot more pressing issues happening in the country right now, and they're just all worried about their own positions and retaining their seat? They're not worried about the voter.
Yeah, and on so many levels. I mean, if people just see it in passing, they think, oh, they're fighting amongst themselves. They don't agree on anything. And then if people look a bit deeper, they see what's happened, how sort of Susan Lee came out early after Bondi, made like political hay out of it. With this always going to come back. There was always going to be a freedom of speech, hate crime issue in the coalition. And so they brought
it on themselves.
Yeah, by raising the stakes, by making it such a political issue, attacking the Prime Minister so personally and viciously, which helped them, you know, at the start of the year, that has all come back around on them because it exposed their divisions so deeply. And so people...
And Albanese probably saw that.
Yeah, I think he probably could have if he was looking that way. I mean, he's the type of politician who can see months in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if the Liberals and the Nationals didn't have this infighting and they held the course and they said, it's too much too soon, it's too messy, you haven't included people, we only got the legislation, and they held that line, then there would be some opportunity to argue that point. But when it's just cascading one thing after the other, one negative, they're speaking with such vitriol against the against the Greens, against Labor, then Nationals are talking poorly against themselves. It's an absolute mess. And I guess when we were talking about what we were going to talk about tonight, we were going to talk about leadership and who we thought would be leaders of the of each party, just as a way of discussing, who's there and who's up and coming. So it's more of a desktop exercise on having a look a little bit deeper at each party rather than just looking at the Nationals all the time. And little did we know that the Nationals would make this the topic worth talking about tonight as well, particularly from their point of view. But even as you said, George, Hasty and Taylor were in talks today trying to get each other to not support themselves, to support each other because they need each other.
Yeah,
They
they're
need
both
each
fishing
other's
from the
votes.
same pond. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
both on the right, whereas Lee's and moderates.
Yeah. And they couldn't
Yeah, they couldn't sort it out themselves.
Well, Taylor was on his way back from overseas and had called Hasty and asked him to be his deputy, apparently. And Hasty was like, no, I'm running my own race.
Yeah. So we will go into this now, but let's start by looking at the Nationals. So currently, David Littleproud is the leader of the Nationals, and you have your. Can you check to see? Is there a way you can check to make sure, see if the Nationals can elect a leader from
I
the
feel
Senate?
really certain they can't. Because just from precedent, none of their leaders have been from the Senate, and they get a lot of senators, or one from two from New South Wales, two from Victoria. I mean, Warren Truss, Mark Vaile, John Anderson. They're all in the lower house. And I remember when they were talking about, because they often talk about Bridget McKenzie trying to move to the lower house. I'm certain the leader has to come from the lower house.
If you trust AI, and it seems to think that the federal parliamentary party rules do allow for it, although it's traditionally rare.
So it's possible.
Yeah.
Well,
So let's talk about if Littleproud isn't the option, who is? If there is a spill and it's successful, which I'm not sure it will be.
no.
Who's the alternative?
Well, Darren Chester, Kevin Hogan. Those would be the main ones I would see. Yeah, or Michael McCormack. There's no good reason why Michael McCormack couldn't be the leader again.
Yeah.
He didn't lose it for any controversial issue that I can remember. I met him. I liked him. He's a very conservative guy, but he was, he performed the role of deputy prime minister well. He announced the Hinkler regional deal here. Yeah, I think he could be a contender if he wanted it back.
So if you were to look and say, come Monday, is there going to be enough for a spill?
No, I'm sure that there won't be there's going to be a spill, but in terms of the contest, yeah.
Well, don't they have to get a seconder for a spill?
Probably, I think they would get that though. I think they would get a seconder.
It'd be interesting if they do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's serious. I feel like it's just stir the pot to lead the way for someone else to come through.
Yeah. So then if he's the leader on Monday, do you think he's still the leader in 12 months?
No.
Well, just maybe because there isn't a lot of others who would naturally take it. I think if Matt Canavan was in the lower house, he could do it. If Bridget McKenzie was in the lower house, she could be. But amongst the members, I do think they has to be from the lower house, just because it's always been that way. And
they're traditionalists by nature.
yeah, they are some pretty conservative fellows.
Yep. So you don't think he'll be dislodged in the next 12 months, or he'll stay there for the election?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I can't see anyone else coming through. I think they're in this situation because he championed their interest. I don't think they can blame him for where they are. He's, led the party room to the situation they're in.
Mm-hmm. If you could choose a leader from the National Party, or you had to, not if you could, if you had to, that was effective, not one that would cause them to lose an election, but one that was effective, who would you choose?
Darren Chester.
And why is that?
He's a good operator. I think he's genuinely interested in regional Australia. I've seen him, like I said, when I've gone to delegations with him, I've been with other mayors from Pilbara to, Rockhampton. He's across regional Australia. which is, of course, and the areas that they know that they're under attack from in terms of One Nation.
Yep. What about Colin Joyce? Is he where's he?
Boyce.
Boyce.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
He would be the wrong. I mean, in terms of them fighting One Nation, I think he's Pauline Hanson without the charisma. So he would.
They'd be better off with Canada Man.
Yeah,
From the,
yeah. So they
yeah.
would they would be tied to his rhetoric, and if you look back, going back to his time in state parliament, it's obviously all about coal. It's culture war stuff. It's
Well,
yeah.
he worked at coal mines, didn't he? He was a manager. He was like most of his before his whole life. He was a welder.
Well, there were, he represented Callide. There's a few coal
Yep.
mines and power plants there. So, I mean, he represents that area. He represents Callide, which would have been Jeff Seeney before him. I don't think that is, in terms of trying to win over urban seats, the message wouldn't, right now, I think out of like 88 urban seats, the Liberals hold about 8. They don't hold many
No.
urban seats. And he wouldn't help them in that regard at all. Especially his message is getting the coalition back together.
Yep. Moving on to the Liberals, Susan Ley is currently the leader, and there is a lot of speculation about her position and how tenuous it is. The contenders are obviously Andrew Hastie, Angus Taylor. Is there anyone else? Real contenders, not pretenders.
Not that I can think of.
No.
The well isn't particularly deep.
No. So, is a leadership spill imminent?
Absolutely, yeah. That it's just a matter of time.
There's a lot of smoke.
Yeah, I mean, only one of those two men has to change their mind, and one will be leader and one will be deputy. They just have to come to an arrangement. I mean, they could all of a sudden decide to have a coin flip, and it would be on.
Yeah.
And I mean, once you have a leadership and she survives, like 30 to
She's
20,
wounded.
22, she's not going to make another 2 years. Like, this is pretty early in this term, very early in her leadership. This kind of stuff happened to Brendan Nelson pretty early in his leadership. To survive a 3-year term, to make it to the next election, you've got to be in pretty good shape at this end of the term.
Which is a bad look, really. If they were instilling her to fix their women problem, doesn't look great. Whether she's a good leader or not, it doesn't look great.
Do you think she's a good leader?
Not particularly. From
Why?
everything that you hear, she's not particularly methodical. The way that she operates, like the actual from an organisational point of view, communication, everything I've heard doesn't seem like she's a strong leader. But that being said, she is relatively new to the role. Maybe those are things that she would develop with time.
Whether male or female, I think one of the things about being an effective communicator as a leader is you can't talk around things. You've got to talk to things, and she certainly appears to talk around things. Sort of, I wouldn't
One
say
each way, but part of that because they haven't done their big audit debrief, whatever, after the last election.
Yeah, because Peter Dutton won't let them release it.
Yeah, they've delayed it. So without doing that, then she doesn't have a strong way either way of which way she should be going. So then she's like sitting on the fence the whole time.
Do you think that that the response to the Bondi terror attack is the reason why she won't be leader, or do you reckon that was just the start of a?
I feel that was probably a convenient excuse for the people who wanted to take her down, probably.
Yeah.
I don't think there was probably a lot of people unhappy about the situation when she was first instilled, and they were expecting her to be the night watchman type thing from the beginning. So
because George, she had some controversy too, didn't she, before she became leader? Wasn't?
Yeah, was she the one who flew up and bought a house?
on the Gold Coast,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's strange that they would be so forgiving.
And I don't know. Did she take a step back when they were attacking Annika Wells about it?
Yeah, I don't think they used her much in the attack. No,
I wonder why.
Yeah, they didn't need to. Yeah.
Yeah, well, no need to wonder. So Who is the leader in 12 months?
I think Andrew Hastie.
That's a hard one. Angus Taylor didn't have a very good performance over the election period. He did terribly. So I mean, probably Andrew Hastie if they're trying to be more like One Nation to get that vote back. Probably Andrew Hastie.
I mean, if they wanted to really take on One Nation, this is the Liberals. They could go like the guy in Townsville, Philip Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the front bench now, I think. Somebody totally.
Well, why would he be better than Hastie?
Yeah, you're right. Andrew Hastie is good for it.
He's a bit of a
Yeah.
bulldog in the way that he speaks and he communicates, and I think he would be a hard opposition to combat coming into an election. I think he would be a strong opponent to Albanese.
Yeah. The military background, young, energetic. The comparison would work well.
Yeah,
And a little bit of an abrasive personality.
a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And he would have the issue of being Western Australian, which is, I mean, I think the last leader from WA was Kim Beazley, and he spoke a lot about all the time constraints of being so far. I remember one of the things he really wanted about being Prime Minister is he would spend a lot more time with his family, because then the family would be at the
there
lodge,
at the lodge
instead of him flying between West Australia, Canberra, and the whole country.
Hastie said his family's giving him the green light, so
That's nice of him. He's got to.
Yeah.
They don't vote though, do they?
no.
Yeah, I saw that media. I mean, that is a really bad sign for Susan Lee that Hastie is gathering together his family for that photo, willing to talk about his family in that way. I mean, that really puts marbles under your leader.
He knows he's got the numbers.
That
in
was
there.
like Scott Morrison on the front of Women's Weekly or something. You knew that he was setting himself up.
Yes. And he has been in the news again this week, but we won't go there today. Out of
No.
those three, Susan Lee, Andrew Hastie and Angus Taylor, which one of those would you choose as the leader?
Susan Lee.
Why?
Out of the three, she's got ministerial experience. She's got an interesting background in terms of the jobs she's had before in politics. Yeah.
Do you have a view?
No, not really.
If you had to,
Well, look, it's not going to be Hastie. I wouldn't choose Hastie. He's too conservative for me. He's too far to the right. Angus Taylor's, from different things I've read and heard, he's a little bit on the lazy side when it comes to work ethic. So,
well, he's got 2 Facebook accounts. So
oh, he does. He definitely has that.
he's just not very
That's
good at
hard
them.
to run.
That's
So,
I'm
by
gonna get a shirt that
default,
says-
it would probably be Susan Lee because she hasn't done anything to
Yeah, I would choose Susan
run
Lee.
me up the wrong way.
I would choose Susan Lee because I think, despite her, whether she's a really good communicator outwardly, I think she's a consensus candidate where she does seek advice from her
No captain's calls.
Yeah. So I like that in a leader, and it's something that we probably could use a bit more of. Unfortunately,
Or a dictator, whatever you.
whether it suits a relationship with the Nationals, I'm not sure. But yeah, for me, it would be Susan Lee. So going on to One Nation, this is a redundant exercise because Pauline Hanson is the, even though in the Senate, is the leader and the president of a party. But there is, obviously, if you were to say there was a contender, if, for example, Pauline Hanson decided to step down and she didn't decide to hand it to her daughter if she got elected in the next parliament, which she is running. So,
For Tasmania.
yeah, so you got a daughter and a mum running in the next election in the Senate. But you do have Barnaby Joyce, who has incredible credential as an elected official since 2004. Was a significant player in the National Party. Assuming he's not really a contender for leadership, is he?
Yeah, I don't think it can work if she's still there. Yeah, I would think she's a leader as long as she wants to be of her own party.
Yep. So right now he's a member of One Nation and he's in the lower house. He's a House of Representatives, but he won't be. He'll run as a senator
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure he'll run Senate for New South Wales.
because he needs the surety of a vote, or
Yeah, well, just that's much more.
And a job.
That's a lock. He's got that locked in. They'll win that.
Yep.
They'll win a Senate seat.
do you think that he could win New England?
Potentially. I mean, he's been the member there for so long. It wouldn't be as certain as a 6-year term in the Senate, though.
That's 6 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Be good not to have to run every 3 years. There's no other contenders, are there? Because you've already got Roberts and
whoever has replaced the guy who was there for a day in New South Wales.
yeah, I can't remember
It
his
could be
name.
Colin Boyce.
Well,
Yeah.
that's true.
Nabajimba Price.
Yeah. Well, she's Liberal, isn't she?
Right now.
Yeah. Is she Liberal? Or, well, she's
Yeah, she's
She
in the Liberal.
defected.
Yeah.
yeah, she defected too. I struggle with. You got Nabajimba Prize right? Had you been practicing that or?
Well, I have heard the name a couple of times this week.
So have I. And
I tried to
practiced and
remember.
I still couldn't get it. So 12 months from now, who's the leader?
Pauline Hanson.
If you had to choose,
Pauline Hanson.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Malcolm Roberts is really entertaining. Yeah.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
choose Barnaby Joyce because I just don't agree with the vitriol and the hatred that I feel that Pauline Hanson perpetuates, and I know people say Joyce does the
At
same.
least if she's there, it's obvious and you know what it is. It's not as insidious as someone else who's hiding it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to choose just to be different. Barnaby. I've
Yeah.
met Barnaby a few times.
Yeah.
He's quite personal.
Yeah. I just think that there's a lot of, I don't know, particularly women who see that life of, it's almost a stereotype that this man, the successful man, the woman stays at home, looks after the kids. They're both in their 40s, early 50s, and then he goes away with his secretary. It's just a particularly nasty human condition to do that to your wife
On
and your
such
children,
a public stage.
and the whole time to be talking about family values.
Oh,
like I just
It's hypocrisy at
It's
the
almost
highest.
unforgivable. At the same time as it's the person that is the deputy prime minister, and lauded as some sort of values-based person. I don't know. It's just one of the worst things you can do as a man, as a human, to do that to your wife and your children, and at the same time talk about
It's
family
just
values.
so publicly too. Like, yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't want to see him as a
And
leader of anything.
Look, this could be a new idea, go into new idea territory here. But also, like, he named his firstborn child with the secretary
Yeah, what
the name that they'd chosen if they'd had a boy with his previous wife.
Yes, new idea for sure. Moving on to the Greens. Well, no, before we move on to the Greens.
New
there's some-
idea readers are also voters, Stuart.
Yes, correct. I'm not arguing that. I'm just.
It would be an interesting Venn diagram where you have two circles. I don't think that there'd be very big overlap between New Idea and One Nation, though.
No.
Yeah.
No. Well, you never know.
They probably have had some stories about
Actually-
Pauline, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So to be clear,
We might be surprised by
Yeah.
that. We'll have to contact them.
so to make it clear that under the party's constitution for Pauline Hanson's One Nation party, she is effectively president for life unless she resigns or chooses a successor. So she gets to choose a successor. So that makes me think that potentially that successor could be.
Her daughter.
That's how it works in North Korea, too.
There's another Venn diagram.
So the Greens, I don't think are at risk of losing their leader as well. George, would you agree?
Yeah, no, Larissa's a pretty safe pair of hands. You don't see her. I mean, growing up, I used to always see Bob Brown. You just don't. You don't see her the way you see Bob Brown.
But you
used to.
see Adam Bandt the same way. Like, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was out there
Yeah,
more too.
he
Yeah,
was
yeah. So she's
definitely.
been very, very quiet.
Natalie was too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that-
But Adam was all over social media, all over like talk shows and TV news the last week.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, well, hold on, is he still? Is he still?
Oh,
Oh
alive?
yeah,
Did
because
that happen?
he's the CEO of one of the environmental groups now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the hot weather, he would be coming out and speaking on that. But do you want to talk us through who, if Larissa Waters wasn't the leader, that there's potentially two that could.
Yeah, it would have been Max Griffith. What was his last name?
Chandler?
The one with the hyphenated surname.
Oh, yeah.
Like he would have been the next leader.
Chandler something.
Yeah, if he had kept his seat, that would have been him. But I think, if it wasn't Larissa, is Sarah Hanson-Young the deputy leader maybe?
Yeah.
They're probably
She's probably
co-leader, convened, and just.
Yeah.
The Greens don't really talk in terms of leaders and deputy leaders. They'll be
Yeah.
co-leaders, I imagine.
Yeah, she's probably the highest profile.
Yeah, she's been around a long time.
Like, she's got a higher profile than Larissa Waters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Larissa Waters seems to, she seems to do all right.
Yeah.
She holds her own.
So if you're going to choose someone,
Larissa Waters, yeah.
Yeah,
The
I agree.
Queenslander.
that's
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good bet, and it's a good stable. It's a good way to stabilise their party. Do you think they'll improve in the next election if there's still infighting, or do you reckon that there's a shift, or the pendulum's moving a little bit to the right at the moment?
It is moving a bit to the right. Will the Greens improve their vote?
Yeah.
Yeah. The agenda is just not really that well suited to them at the moment in terms of, a lot of their campaigning has been about housing and affordability, so that they'll do well with that.
They've pivoted a bit. Yeah.
Yep.
But
So-
then again, there are probably some Labor voters who don't feel like they feel like they've been going a bit safe, so they might lose some.
You reckon Labor's going safe?
Yeah, they're running a bit of a safe race, I think, generally.
And,
Safe or effective?
A bit of both.
And it's interesting looking at the Greens vote versus One Nation, because the state government is looking at bringing back, they've said they're bringing back optional preferential. The reason Labor at the last term or term before brought in compulsory was because of the Greens vote. So the Greens vote in places like, Stafford or Redcliffe or, all those Brisbane seats that, without those preferences, with those just vote one, that was lost to Labor, but those preferences were enough to put Labor ahead. Whereas right now, with One Nation surging, those with the LNP losing all those votes to One Nation, it's kind of surprising that they don't want to keep compulsory voting, because it is, sort of traditionally Labor has been the one saying just vote one. Peter Vitti made that up, just vote one, because all the conservative independents, and he got a lot of seats in 2001, particularly because of the amount of optional preferencing where people didn't vote all the way, and conservative votes got stranded. So it's unusual that it's flipped to where the LNP now thinks it's their advantage to have optional preferences.
Do you think it is?
I think right now it absolutely is. It's different in different areas. In Maryborough it hurts them because Maryborough, there's very little Green vote, so they would want it. The LNP would want the One Nation preferences to win. And in a lot of the regional areas like Rockhampton, I haven't looked at the Rockhampton vote closely, but I imagine the Liberals got across the line on One Nation preferences.
Yep. Moving on to Labor. Anthony Albanese is the current. Do you want to check that to make sure that's still?
Yeah, I'm not making a big call about him leaving.
No,
Yeah. So.
this will be a short discussion.
Well, it's also it's an important, I guess, to talk about. And George, maybe because you have an understanding of and I guess the reason why I want to bring this up is because the stability that the rules that were changed when Rudd and Gillard had the leadership spills and the undermining. There was some significant rules in the Labor Party that were changed that protected the leader to some point of view, or protected the party from infighting. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, it's much harder. Yeah, Rudd brought it in where the vote in the end was the membership and the party, but it's very high threshold now. To you look overseas like the Tories and with their 1922 committee and others, it's where in some cases it's very easy. A certain number of signatures and you cause a spill. What Colin Boyce is trying to do, whereas it's an astronomically high number in the Labor caucus.
Was it 60% of the federal caucus to even trigger a spill against a sitting leader? The leadership decided by 50-50 vote split between MPs and party members. So
that's crazy that you need this absolute majority of your colleagues to like that means that that's like a vote of no confidence. Like if they kept going with that, yeah.
Yep. And that threshold's in place when their leader is in place, not when there's a vacancy. Yep.
Yeah, is there like an automatic election after each? I think, yeah, after each, if they're in opposition.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. I think they've still got to resign.
Yeah.
So there is a party process and a public process, isn't there, which makes it harder to destabilise a government by just keep calling leadership spills.
Yeah, and it takes a long time. Yeah, to actually get 60% of that, that's a really high. I mean, it's a pretty rare thing. I mean, I only think there's only been one of these that's gone the full way to a ballot, and that was like in 2013 between Albanese and Bill Shorten.
Yeah.
And obviously, Bill Shorten ended up winning that. I remember Bill Shorten called me.
I remember you telling me this.
Like it was a lesson in politics. I was going to vote for Albanese, and my vote's one of, tens and tens of thousands. But it really, it's a really valuable thing to actually ask somebody for their support.
Yeah.
Bill Shorten just called me and said, look, I'd really like your support. I'm running. And then he, talked a bit about Albanese, talked a bit about himself. And it's like, oh, wow, this guy took the time to call me. It's a real lesson in politics.
Because you told me that, because I had the opportunity to hear Albanese speak in Canberra when he was the local government minister. He was local. Yeah, he was local.
Yeah, he had a really big portfolio of
Infrastructure.
infrastructure.
Yeah. And I was so impressed with him then, and I was really impressed by his authenticity and his just natural. It's not a Tony Robbins charisma; it's a earthy charisma, which I really liked. And we talked, and you said to me that you were going to vote for him, and I thought that's pretty cool. And then you mentioned you got a phone call from Bill Shorten. I went, what? How's that? What do you mean he called you? And then it certainly swayed your vote.
Yeah, it did. And it's just a lesson for me in politics about about asking somebody for their support.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to ask?
At that one-on-one interaction.
Yeah.
So if you look at some of the contenders or some of the people that could take on a role, you've got, Jim Chalmers would have to be the front runner, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would be, yeah.
You've got Tanya Plibersek and Tony Burke, probably, they're probably the three strongest candidates, would they be?
Plibersek certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
And
she's in the left faction, isn't it?
Yeah.
She? So would that be a problem for her a little bit?
No, it's the same. Albanese's in left faction. Julia Gillard was. Yeah. It is. It means that's why she's not the deputy.
Now.
If you have whatever the leader is, the deputy has to be something else, which is why you'd have Kevin Rudd from the right and Julia from the left. Julia from the left, and I don't know who her deputy was.
Was it who was it? He was the
Wayne Swan?
Yeah, Wayne Swan as treasurer. He might have been the deputy leader. Yeah, and now and that's why Tanya Plibersek was the deputy to Bill Shorten.
Yeah.
But once Albanese came in, you couldn't have two left wing from Sydney. I mean, they must Sydney and his Grandler must be adjoining seats.
They are just nearby.
Yeah. You couldn't, but that doesn't make for a good leader. That doesn't work as a leadership team.
Yep. So we assume that Albanese is going to be there in 12 months. Yep. Before, I'm going to break this into two. If you had to choose between just Plibersek, Chalmers and Burke, which one would you choose?
Jim Chalmers. He's a really capable treasurer. He's a very good grassroots politician. People like him. He comes across well. He's got a young family.
Even Sky News said he was the hardest worker in Canberra.
Yeah.
So that's saying a lot.
Yeah. It's not saying much. It's
for them, it's saying a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I think he is charismatic, engaging, intelligent. He has an emotional intelligence that very few politicians have. I think
there's a certain relatability to him.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see him being the next Prime Minister?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
So then, if you had to choose, would you agree Chalmers for you or?
Yeah, I think Tony Burke's would have a hard slog because he's kind of been a little bit of the bulldog in the party for so long. So I think he'd have maybe a harder slog with the public. I'm not quite sure.
And he had a few dramas with travel as well, didn't he? He had a few.
I don't remember those.
Oh, yeah, there was something about.
No, it's Labour, you would never remember.
Yeah, I think there was something about a concert or something.
Yeah.
But he does have like 5 portfolios or something at the moment, 4 or 5 or something.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
And I don't think it really impacted.
Sarah Hanson-Young had one too.
I do like Tanya Plibersek. I think she's
like
very engaging, articulate, but I just think Jim Chalmers is a once in a generation sort of leader, and if he wasn't there, you'd quite happily say, well, Tanya would be a good fit, a good fit for the Labor Party, a good fit for Australia. I think she's a really solid communicator.
Yeah.
Very doesn't get pushed over very easy, which is important as well.
Yeah.
So then moving beyond that, if you put Albanese in that mix, who's your most preferred out of all those? Out of Albanese, Plibersek, Chalmers, and Burke.
Yeah, Albanese. I think he's doing a great job.
Yeah, I think he's running a good race for them. You can tell by the numbers they got at the last election. What reason would they have to get rid of him?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. At the same time, I mean, Palaszczuk got an enormous amount of MPs in 2000, in 2020, and by the end of that term,
that's true. Things change a lot faster than I think they once did. But then again, they've got a lot. Like if you talk about Labor and possible leaders, they've got a lot more experienced people to choose from than the Liberal Party currently does. So
yeah,
a lot of the best and brightest of the federal LNP have sort of retired or lost their seats.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why they're in a bit of strife.
So now that we've got the leadership sorted, I want to go to an area we discussed last week, and something that has been really annoying me about how we accept communication. We accept the things that people say as the truth. I think America is a great example of what we're seeing in the sense that, just because we see it doesn't mean it happened. It's the alternate.
Well, with
alternate
AI
facts.
now, that's definitely the case.
Yeah. So it made me really want to pick up on the little things, because I think if you let those little things go, you start to not sharpen your blade in relation to calling your elected officials to account. So the issue that I wanted to raise was when David Littleproud's reasoning for splitting the coalition was completely flawed in my view, and I think it's the reason why he won't survive to the next election as a Nationals, because I think it's a foundation of dishonesty that will be hard for people to let go, particularly in the party, because I think they will know the truth. And here's how I break it down, okay? So this is how I see it. The front bench solidarity rules require ministers to vote with the leader or resign before the vote. So that's if you're on the front bench, there's no nuance to that. It's not the same as someone who's just sitting in someone who's not part of the front bench. There's certain absolute
They're in
requirements.
cabinet.
Yeah. 3 national front benches did not vote with the leader on combating anti-Semitism, hate and extremism, criminal and migration laws bill 2026. So they didn't. They crossed the floor. All 3 of them resigned, explicitly stating that they had breached front bench solidarity and accepted the consequences. So a lot of, if you hear what they've said, or they actually say, before Susan Lee even makes comment, before she asks for the resignations, they offer it because they accept that they broke the rules.
Yeah.
And they accept the consequences as being fair. They say, well, we've broken them, so we resign. Littleproud then went on to say that no rules were broken, and that it was Lee who accepted. It was Lee's acceptance of those resignations, which was the true breach. But I think he was defining the rules as a party room or a coalition process while ignoring the front bench rules, and that's what triggered the resignation. So I think there's a level of dishonesty there, isn't there, George?
Yeah, he's trying to walk his way through it when
He's swirling around.
Yeah, the foundational Westminster principle is you stand with your cabinet or shadow cabinet solidarity, and if you can't support it, you resign.
So why would he be then saying that that there was no expectation on the Nationals that they would have to resign if in fact they tendered their resignations right after the vote?
Yeah, he's trying to say something that they said the opposite in the letter, that it wasn't a decision of shadow cabinet, that the leader, that they should have taken it to joint party room which is, separate to Westminster tradition. He's trying to conflate it to be something a little bit different.
Because
Conveniently.
to be clear, the rules are whatever the leader does, the front bench follows.
Yeah. Well, and he's saying that whatever shadow cabinet agrees to, the shadow cabinet, you follow the agreement. But yeah, it's what the leader does. It applies. You see it much more in effect in government, and they stick together more in government because there's, more to lose. But it makes a lot more sense in government that you have to the prime minister has to have the confidence of the cabinet, and if they doesn't, then they resign. But it's just a reflection of Westminster that the opposition, adopts those principles on the expectation that they'll eventually get into government and they need to abide by the same rules.
So to me, it's one or the other. Littleproud is being selective and deceptive about his interpretation of events, or the three ministers were wrong or dishonest when they broke the rules. It can't be one. It can't be. The ministers can't have acted the way they did, and Littleproud's statements being accurate, can they?
No, they do contradict each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So why hasn't that been borne out more in the criticism of Littleproud? Or has it?
It probably has internally.
I think a lot of the quotes you're seeing from the Liberal, MPs that they do anonymously, they talk about that, about him doing the wrong thing by Lee and the coalition. I think there's a lot of blame coming from the Liberals.
Yep. So then,
like an ambush cloaked in ambiguity. That word, I can't even.
Ambiguity. Yep.
That word, ambiguity. I got me out. I'll go back to Nabba Timber Price.
Don't ask me to say that again. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I guess it also. I'm aware that Littleproud abstained from the vote himself.
Yeah.
Because he would have had to, wouldn't he? He would either have to resign.
Yeah, he would know that he would have to resign. Yeah. So by him abstaining, he knew that voting against. There's a reason why he didn't vote against. Yeah.
So he abstained because he didn't want to break cabinet solidarity rules.
But he was happy for others too to cause what has happened now.
So then it makes me think, if you were to be a conspiracy theorist, which I'm not, but in this case I'm happy to be, is that it would make you think that it might have been planned or concocted. That Littleproud...
I don't think that's conspiracy.
If Littleproud
strategy.
had voted no, and then he caused the coalition to break down, people would have blamed him and said, well, you didn't follow the rules.
Yeah.
But because he's falling on his sword for other members, it seems a bit more reasoned, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's much more likely to receive their support to continue as leader.
Yeah. So Littleproud, in my mind, is 2026's lie, pants on fire.
Oh, wow, that's early.
Yeah, until someone else...
It's only January.
Yeah.
Come on, that's not going to be...
That's a long time in politics.
For January...
For January, we're going to do one each month?
Pants on Fire of the month is definitely... Yeah, let's do that. Let's the Pants on Fire award for January goes to Littleproud. Anyone else even close to him?
For January?
I mean, I know every time Barnaby Joyce speaks, but I mean, yeah, it's got to be him.
I'll take more notice going forward, so I've got someone to nominate next month.
So we're going to step away from federal politics, and unless you want to add anything else before we move forward. So, George, this topic, which I want to sort of finish on tonight, is very much in your realm as also as mayor. You would have had some involvement as well. So I understand there'll be some cross-pollination. It's also a significant state issue and a significant community issue for our community. And I want to just go back to something we talked about last week, which was, again, we talked about the tragic death of a Canadian tourist, Piper, and the significance. So from, I believe that an autopsy came through and there were some findings.
Yeah, some contradictory, not final findings, but the findings included that there was evidence that she drowned, water in the lungs, as well as evidence of bites being before she died. So two kind of contradictory, unless, you can think of some scenarios where they would go together. but
Yeah,
not
like
a final, outcome. If there ever is going to be a final determinative statement of exactly how
Yeah.
she died.
So if you're sitting in the water and then you get attacked by a dingo and you run into the water and you fall over, you are going to
Yeah.
inhale water and it
Hmm.
it can cause you drowning. If you're floating with your back up, like you're just enjoying the water, and a dingo comes and you start panicking, you take breaths in. That's where those two things can happen in a way, where you the cause of your drowning might be being attacked by a dingo, but the actual cause of your death could
Yes.
be the
Drowning.
drowning.
Yeah. Mhm.
So there is some, while they maybe sound contradictory, like you said, there
Yeah.
are examples where it could
Yeah,
be
and
the case.
the bites before death. The death happened as a series of steps. Then
Yeah.
maybe it's not immediate, but
Because they did say that the bites weren't fatal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. That then led to a decision by the Queensland government to cull 10 dingoes on Gari. Do you want to talk about that, or because I want to talk about that? Obviously, the state government they need to make decisions to protect people from animals that maybe become aggressive, and there is a culling process that's been followed. I think hundreds of dingoes have been culled on the island.
it would take a while to do that many, but over many, many years. Yeah,
I think one year they culled 150, about 15 years ago. It was a massive culling of them. But like you said, over years they do a culling. They have culled them before. But I guess the significant difference now is that the Butcher people have custody of the island. They are the traditional owners of the island. And also from that perspective, when a dingo, there are some traditional and customs that they follow in relation to when a dingo dies and what that means to the spirit world as far as they're concerned. They weren't consulted. How important do you think it would have been for the Butcher people to be consulted on this?
yeah. I mean, I spoke to an elder on Australia Day, and they were very, very upset about it. To find out, through the media that many dingoes have been put down. To find out, and when they announced, some of the media has been that when the announcement came out, 6 of them had already been put down.
Yeah.
The number is very upsetting. It is, the government's got to make decisions on a wide range of factors. I always think with Gari, the primary concern should be preserving the wilderness. You cannot reduce all risks. Well, you reduce them. You can't remove all risks. And the risk from wildlife will always be there. They would have made an assessment and determined that was the best thing to do. It couldn't be an easy thing for the rangers to make that assessment. But certainly it would have been a good thing to consult with the Butchell Aboriginal Corporation.
Yeah.
If native title means anything.
How would you have dealt with this matter?
I certainly would have wanted to speak to the Butchell Aboriginal Corporation. Now, this isn't a council matter. A national park is, managed by the state government. They have rangers over there who do a great job. And then there's also the Butchell Rangers as well, who work collaboratively with those rangers. The state government has said the reason they did it was because it was a long weekend and they didn't want to allow the risk to remain there, which is why they say they did it so quickly without any consultation.
So some of the Butchell people have said that even if the decision was to cull, that they would have conducted some ceremonies as part of their customs and their traditions in relation to the spirit world to ensure that the transition from life to spirit was done effectively through a smoke ceremony. Do you think this is a misstep from the state government?
Yeah, absolutely. From that perspective, you'd want to maintain good relations, and you want people to feel some level of agency and responsibility for the country they have, working collaboratively with the rangers to look after. I think it'll take quite a while for the state government and the Butchell Aboriginal Corporation for that rift to heal. When you look at Gari, the World Heritage attributes, it's the wilderness, it's the cultural, a big part of it's dingoes. A big part of it's the Butchell people's continuing connection to country. And that's those are the things that need to be looked at when managing the island. We are very, very fortunate to have such a a pristine wilderness, and it should be preserved as best as it can be. You cannot reduce all. You just can't wipe away any risk. There will always be risks there when you've got lakes, you've got creeks, you've got sharks, you've got
Exactly.
dingoes.
Particularly over that eastern side, just as much chance getting taken by a shark over there. Irukandji, there's risk. If you're in the environment, if you're out in the outdoors, there's always going to be some kind of risk with wildlife.
Do you agree that there should have been a culling program in relation to these 10 dingoes? Or
No,
do you
I
have a view?
don't think they should have been culled at all. I think at the end of the day, all of these issues stem from humans feeding them, humans leaving their rubbish behind. I think that it's a human problem, not a wildlife problem. They're the purest dingoes in the world, so it's not as if when people are like, oh, just cull them, it's not as if they're going to go extinct. Well, actually, they're the purest dingoes there are. So
Yeah, and the extinction thing. I mean, the population. Nobody knows the exact population. It's 150,
between 70 and 200. I read from an expert yesterday.
Yeah, and so 10 is quite a large.
It is, and that
puddle from that pool
reduces the
Yeah.
genetic diversity.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So what if an expert told you that if a dingo was to show aggression or danger or attack a human, that behaviour would then continue and become worse, and they would become more aggressive, dangerous animals?
Yeah.
How would you respond to that?
I think as a representative, you definitely have to obviously take those things into account. And I mean, definitely not an ecology expert in any way, but I feel like wildlife should be given a greater priority.
Yeah, in one little place at least, right across the world, humans have made their presence felt. We should have a few wildernesses, and an island is the ideal place for that, where you allow nature to be.
And how big is that island? It's a massive island.
3,000 square kilometres, something pretty big.
And there's between 70 and 200 dingoes on that whole island.
Yeah, and I think the council, we put down a dog if it attacks somebody, if it's dangerous. We wouldn't put down the whole street.
Yeah.
I think the state government could explain why they had to put down 10. Why
Why it's
But
a whole pack.
yeah.
They believed it was the pack that was involved in, so it was more. It was those 10.
Did they test that there were 10 different bites from 10 different dogs?
Well, I don't. So my view is that that's a hard decision to make. A really hard decision. I think that based on what I know of the people that are involved in that in that space from the national parks, I think they would have given great consideration to the protection of the dingoes and also the safety of people. And I think when they weighed it up, I think that based on what I know about who they are, their knowledge base, I think they've made the right decision in relation to culling. I think it's a terrible and hard decision to make, but I think there should have been far more consideration, consultation and discussion. And
I'd be interested to see what consultation was taken and with whom.
Yeah.
Well, none was. Yeah.
But
outside of the of the department and government.
I mean, not just Bachelor people, but also just widely, like.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
who was
if they
consulted?
came out and said they did consult with other than experts, it would be an issue for them. Like they couldn't come out and say, "Oh, we spoke to
I don't
people
think they're gonna come out
in
and
the
tell
Happy
us.
Valley Township or you're wrong."
Yeah,
They would, I imagine there would be a few professors and a few behavioral scientists that they would have consulted with.
Well, I think they'd have a policy that says if this happens, then this must happen. So it's for them, it'd be a very objective.
It wouldn't be the
process.
first time they haven't consulted widely, though. So
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, I guess because they are a compliance and a their roles aren't elected officials. They're a different role. So I can understand where the breakdown happened. I would hope that breakdown doesn't happen again. I hope that
It
you don't
seemed
have
it was done quickly because once it was done and it couldn't be undone.
Yeah. Well, it's a very sad the whole thing. Is very sad.
The whole scenario is sad.
Yeah, and you got to feel for the Bachelor people who were the dingoes are a very important part of their spiritual culture and a very part of their story. So, and the feeling like they're not included will also, I think, run deep. You see people, Bachelor people or Aboriginal people in our community who you respect immensely coming out in public and being very upset about this. John Veve is one of those people, very, very upset. Now, he is one of those sorts of people that just has got such passion for our community, and for him to come out and be so vocal about it, that there's something there that needs to be addressed. And, I think your state members need to come out and make a statement on it, potentially, acknowledge the mistake they've made. Would you acknowledge it if you were the state member?
Well, they wouldn't have had any role in the decision.
But you're still the spearhead, aren't you? You're still the...
Yeah, it's pretty hard. It'll be pretty hard for them to take a strong view on it, because it can get overruled, and then all of a sudden they're on the wrong side of their minister. So it's yeah.
Did they make a mistake?
Did who make it? The minister?
Or were they picking a fight?
Why would they be picking a fight?
I don't know.
That's a bit that's a bit vague. I'm not sure what fight would they be picking. Is it?
Well, there's a lot of controversy, and it seems to swell up a lot of online fire about Gari and Fraser Island and native title and those kind of things. Were they dog whistling to a certain?
I don't think so. I think they just made a misstep. I just think
on Australia, on long weekend, the last weekend of school holidays.
Yeah, I think that the Rangers made a decision which they make all the time, is that if there's
the Rangers the best place to know. They're the people that are there working with it every day.
We just didn't. There's more polity, there's more politics, there's more community around this because it's such a big issue. It happened. There was a large number of dingoes. There was a tragic death. It became a significant thing. They wanted to minimise the risk, which is what they're there to do, but they didn't mitigate the reputational damage that this can do as well. Yeah. We have reached the hour mark, so it's time for us to say farewell. Looking forward to next week. What have you got on this week, George?
I'm going to try and do park run for the first time this Saturday.
Which one?
Point Vernon.
I'm doing the Urangan one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I did the Urangan one last week. Took my dog with me, and he had a blast. He survived. I took me 3 days to recover.
Yeah. So I've been running the course. See, I got my running shoes on most nights. I can run the course, at 7:30 p.m. in about 34 minutes. So I'm not sure how that'll translate to the actual day at 7 a.m. with a crowd of runners. But
I'll stand out there. I'll stand on my balcony and wave to you.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll come down there and do that one.
Come to Point Vernon.
Jazara, my daughter, has a very strong view on that park run. It's got 3 turns, or 2 turns. Is it? You got to turn twice as opposed to once.
In Point Vernon.
Yeah.
Where you start in the middle, you go down.
Turn.
Yeah. And then you go back up.
Start.
Yeah. And go all the way
again
to come back.
Yeah. So it's not with Urangan.
You don't start in the middle.
Yeah, you start at the pier, you go 2.5 kilometres, or as Jazara says, 2.49 kilometres, because it's not quite right. She's particular.
The surveyor in her.
Yeah, and then 2.49 kilometres back, whereas I think it's a third. You
go about 2/3. One way from the middle is about 1 point. It's about 3 kilometres one way and back, and about 2 the next.
Yeah, so 2 turns is always going to slow you down, isn't it? Because if you're running this way and then you have to turn and run this way, as opposed to just running straight.
Yeah.
So that's 1 turn, slow down. So look it up. Everyone's doing the Tokyo turn at the Point Vernon.
Yeah. Where you sort of come back.
Yeah. So you got to try that. You might trip over on your new shoes. I'm not sure. You're going to come down?
Sprain an ankle.
How's your dog go with other dogs? Does it play well?
Well, I don't think my dog's much of an athlete. I've got a British Bulldog and an English Mastiff. They're not really athletic type of dogs.
I didn't think that until it saw one of my horses and took it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, she's good off the mark on short distances, but not a long distance dog. Yeah.
Awesome. So you're not coming down to park run?
No, but I'll wave from my balcony.
All right.
I can see.
Not to Urangan.
No, Point Vernon.
Point
Yeah,
Vernon.
yeah. You're not going to be waving to the Orangan Park, right?
No, no,
Oh,
no.
no, I'll
Stuart's going
I'll
to come and
to
go
that.
with you.
Okay.
I'll give that a shot as long as you.
I'll make a sign and I'll wave it.
Yeah, I'll have to tell Jazara. She'll be outraged because she likes to go to the Orangan markets afterwards and get some. There's a little vegan store there that you can get some vegan sauces and
Oh, wow. I'll try
dips.
it. Yeah, I'll try it.
You
It's
and
good.
Hugo's favourite shop's the little car shop.
Yeah,
isn't
he
it?
loves the Hot Wheel car there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one that sells Turkish bread. It's all vegan dips. And so I
Okay.
bought.
Oh, yeah. There's Egyptians. There's the Egyptian one that has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it Egypt? Yeah, well, it's got a heap of Turkish breads,
Yeah.
different types of breads, but all the dips and everything are all vegan based. So yeah, I got a heap of them. Yep. Awesome, guys. Thank you for joining us on this week, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.